Hey guys, my name is Jocelyn. I am a pelvic floor physical therapist and owner of the Vagina Doc Physical Therapy and Wellness. And in this video, I'm going to teach you the basics about Diastasis Recti Abdominis. So what is it? Diastasis Recti Abdominis, or DRA, is stretching of the midline of the abdominal muscles, often after pregnancy or after years of poor abdominal loading, or loading the abdominals with poor technique. And it can range from very mild to severe. And DRA can impact optimal function of your trunk or torso, particularly with rotational tasks such as vacuuming, cleaning, with like cleaning floors, cleaning counters. Who does this impact? 100% of women, a recent study showed 100% of women at 35 weeks gestation had diastasis recti abdominis. And then 40% of women in the group had it 6 months postpartum. This can also be in people that have gained weight across a long period of time or experienced a rapid change in weight. Pregnancy is a good example of a rapid change in weight. There are risk factors for persistent DRA, and that would be pre-pregnancy body mass index at 6 months postpartum, weight gain during pregnancy, the birth weight of the baby, or the abdominal circumference during your pregnancy, and then your just general hypermobility profile. So how flexible are your connective tissues? Like I said, this happens in 100% of women at 35 weeks gestation, or it happens to nearly everyone in the third trimester of pregnancy. It can happen slowly over time due to weight gain, and then also just poor habits like breath holding with all of your abdominal workouts, or just with functional movements in general. And then just more fat located in the abdominal cavity called visceral fat. So why does this occur? In women during pregnancy, the thought is it allows for expansion of the abdominal cavity, and potentially as a protective response against prolapses of body cavities. Like a prolapse in the abdominal wall is called a hernia. Prolapse in the pelvic area can be called this cystocele, rectocele, vaginal vault prolapse, rectal prolapse. So that's the thought. It's a protective mechanism to just balance pressures, and then also to allow for expansion so the baby can grow. Also, why does it happen? It can happen just congenitally. You're more flexible. Just you were born in your genetics, you have more connective tissue flexibility. And then habits, like I mentioned before. What is considered abnormal? Controversial question, but we measure it. The way we measure it is we do a curl up test. So I have people laying on their back, and I measure what happens at the belly button, 3 centimeters or above, 3 centimeters above the belly button, and then 2 centimeters below the belly button. The range for which, or the value for which it's considered out of the normal limits, and I hate using the word normal, is very, very, very variable. And here they are. Anything above 7 millimeters plus or minus 5 millimeters at 3 centimeters above the belly button. That's a wide range, plus or minus 5. At the belly button, 13 millimeters plus or minus 7.3 millimeters. And then 2 centimeters below, 8 millimeters plus or minus 6.2. Wide range, you guys. So a lot of people are focused on the gap, but is that the area that we want to focus on? And the thought is, in our world in rehab, is no. We want to create tension underneath the gap, and that's where I go into the deep core system. The pelvic floor and the transversus abdominis muscle create tension in this connective tissue so that force can travel across the body from one side to the other and diagonally. When you just focus on closing the gap rather than creating tension underneath, energy can be lost in the slack tissue with just closing the gap. And closing the gap often is just focus on the upper abdominals. So we want to focus on the deep abdominals, not just the six pack. So the six pack is what you see in the pictures with DRA where they're separated. So how do we treat it? Well, and how long does it take? It varies depending on the severity. From mild to moderate cases, conservative approaches are the best go. And sometimes it resolves spontaneously if you're moving well and you're breathing through your movements, you have awareness of your deep system. Even if you don't have awareness, sometimes it just resolves. But for mild and moderate, that is not considered surgical. So surgical, it's more than like 10 fingers of a distance, and the connective tissue is just very poor. And in that case, we want to try to rehab it and do the best we can, talk about surgery, and then back to rehab. Pretty small percent compared to the majority of people. But I approach it into 4 phases. So phase 1 is we have to get the system to heal. So a lot of times we tighten in areas, tissues get restricted in certain areas. We get in no lack of awareness, so that we have to address that first. That's phase 1. That can be in like 4 to 8 weeks, depending on your history. Phase 2 is capacity building. So we want to try to stimulate changes in the connective tissue so it gets stronger. And we want to put your body in a position that you can learn best so that you can load appropriately. And that's typically in a neutral position of your spine. Phase 3, they then work on mobility or curling through the spine. And that again is going to be in different positions, sitting, laying on your back, standing. And then phase 4 is where we work dynamically. So you're bending, you're twisting, you're using resistance bands. We use resistance bands in phase 2, but the difference between phase 2 and phase 3 is that the neutral spine versus functional movements. And the phase 3 mobility phase is really key there. Part 2, we're going to dive into a little bit more what that looks like and specific examples, but understand that it is so variable and everyone's diastasis recti is different. And we have to find out the asymmetries or what's driving the muscles to behave a certain way. And is it more of a muscle thing? Is it more of a connective tissue thing? Is it both? And then we go from there. But there's no cookie cutter approach. We're just following principles, and people sometimes resolve pretty quickly, with whenever I'm working with them. But if it is on the severe, moderate, higher moderate to approaching severe, it can take over a year, and it's not a quick fix thing. So I hope that gave you some insight. I will have a handout to hit those bullet points, in addition to give you just a diagram of what that looks like. And I will see you on the next video.